Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel again. Thank you so much for stopping by and tuning in. It's me, April. I hope everyone is doing well and enjoying the final few weeks of summer that we do have left. I don't know about you guys, but I am so looking forward to the holidays this year and fall. All the stores by me have fall decorations out, although I do feel it is a bit too early still. It's always nice to see them this time of year because that means that the holidays are coming soon, and the holidays are always my favorite time of year. Are you guys decorated already? Let me know in the comments below. My mom doesn't decorate until like at least beginning of October, so let me know if you guys are decorated. I would love to know. Okay, so anyway, I really want to get into this video as quickly as I can because I do have a lot of things that I want to put into this video, a lot of things that I want to say and a lot of things that I want to mention, but I'm sure you guys already know what this video is about from the title, and that's why you've clicked on it to watch. But in this video today, I am going to be talking about when I went to Disney on a solo trip. Okay, so before I get started and go into the video, I do want to mention real quick, I did do a podcast with Monorail Tales on this particular topic as well, so I will link that down below so everybody can go check that out. But in this video, I'm basically just going to be furthermore explaining everything that I talked about in the podcast and going into a little bit more detail and basically just explaining my own personal experience and what it was like to travel to Disney alone. Okay, and of course I will also be sharing some of my all-time best and favorite traveling tips and tricks for taking a solo trip to Disney that hopefully I think you guys will definitely benefit from and hopefully will be very helpful to you guys as well. So with all that said, if you guys want to know what it was like to take a solo trip to Disney World, then keep on watching. Okay, so I wrote down here in this book a whole bunch of questions that people typically tend to ask me when I do mention that I went on a solo trip to Disney. So I wanted to make sure that I cover everything, or at least as much as I can. If I do leave anything out, definitely just go ahead and leave a comment down below and I'll make sure that I answer everything. But the first thing that I want to start off with is, when did you go? So I actually went to Disney on my solo trip in December of 2017. So I was 22 years old at the time. I'm 26 now. I went between the dates of December 5th to the 14th. So I stayed for 9 days. Now I do really want to talk about why I decided to go that time and why I decided to go those specific dates and why I decided to stay 9 days, because I feel like 9 days is kind of like a really odd, uncommon number to stay somewhere. So the reason why I chose those dates, honestly, and this is totally honest, is because that was when the airfare was the cheapest. My dates were pretty flexible. I knew I wanted to go at Christmas, but I knew I kind of wanted to go at the beginning too, because when you start going towards the end, more towards Christmas, it is much more crowded and I don't love the huge crowds. So when you do go a little bit earlier, it's definitely, you're not getting that big of a crowd, which is great. So basically, honestly, the dates that I chose, the 5th to the 14th, was because that was when the airfare was literally at its cheapest. So I basically just played with a bunch of dates and those were the dates where it came out the cheapest. So I was like, you know what? I'm down to do that. So that is why I chose those specific dates. As far as how many days I stayed, to be honest, I wanted to stay a little bit more and I originally had 11 days booked and planned to go, but I kept thinking to myself, April, is 11 days too much to go on your own? I actually was used to staying for longer periods of time because my family, when my family and I would go to Disney, growing up, we would always stay 14 to 16 days. That was the vacation that we would take every year, the only vacation we would take, and that is how long we would stay at Disney for. We would stay 14 to 16 days. So I was always used to longer periods of time. So when I wanted to go, I wanted to make sure I didn't stay for too short amount of time or too long amount of time. So when I had 11 days booked, I was like, April, what if you get bored? What if, you know, something happens? I started having all these doubts in my head and I was like, maybe I should just bring it down a little bit. So I ended up booking 9 days. I modified it to 9 days instead of 11. And to be honest, I feel like 9 days was definitely a pretty decent amount of time to go. I do want to mention as well, if you are planning on taking a solo trip to Disney and you're not sure which time of year you'd like to go, I do think that Christmas is definitely such an amazing time to go. It's so beautiful down there and so festive and everything is always decorated, and I think that is definitely one of the best times of year to go, and one of the best times of year to definitely go and have fun. I also like to go in the summer as well. Growing up, my family and I would always go in the summer, but for the past, I don't know, 6 times we've gone, it's been in the winter. It's been around Christmas, and I love it there. The only thing I will say is it does get chilly there in the morning and also at night, so definitely pack accordingly and look at the weather before you go. Okay, so another question that I always get commonly asked is, why did you go to Disney alone? So to be perfectly honest with you guys, at that point before I had gone by myself, I hadn't been to Disney in 2 years. It was because of a money thing. My family, basically, it was just getting harder for us to go, and things weren't really working out in our favor for the last 2 years, and it was just really disappointing, and it wasn't something that I was used to because, like I said, my family and I went to Disney every single year. Since I was 2, I started going, and that was always our annual trip, and the fact that those last few years that we couldn't take the trip was just really disappointing to me. And I do recognize as well, because I do want to say this, I'm very grateful that I was able to go and that I still am able to go as much as I do, because Disney really is so expensive, and it really is a privilege to go to those parks because it just keeps getting more and more expensive every year and harder to go every year. So I just want to say I do recognize that, and I don't take that for granted at all. But I was just kind of getting tired of not being able to go, so I saved up all of my money and I was like, I'm just gonna go by myself, and that's kind of what I did. Okay, so I also want to expand upon why I went a little bit more and just quickly say that I am just in general, I'm a very independent, adventurous person, and I love doing things, especially on my own. I always have found that I always just kind of have the best time when I'm by myself, no matter what I'm doing. I love going to Disney with my family, and I love meeting people down there too, but I always feel like when you're by yourself, you don't have to follow any schedules. You can kind of just do what you want to do whenever you want to do it, and it's just so much fun because you're kind of like, I don't know, you're like living your best life kind of, and you're doing it like on your own, and you like look back on it and you're like, you know, wow, I did that. Like, I went there, I did that by myself. Like, how cool is that? But I've always found that for me personally, it's very easy to entertain myself. I don't know if it's because I grew up as an only child or if it's because I'm an Aries. I don't know, probably both. But it's the best time, honestly, by yourself. And if you are like super into hanging out with yourself and just living life and enjoying it to your fullest, then definitely try going by yourself. I think you'll enjoy it. Okay, so the next thing that I actually want to talk about in this video is planning and budgeting, because I feel like planning and budgeting is a very important part of any vacation, but especially a Disney vacation, because Disney, you know, Disney's expensive, and you know, Disney takes a lot of time, so I think it's definitely very helpful to plan and budget ahead of time before you go. Okay, so I'm going to talk about airfare first. My preferred way of getting to Disney is by plane, which I feel like is a lot of families' preferred way because everybody is coming from all over the place. My plane ride is 1 hour and 50 minutes, so that definitely beats the 17-hour car ride. But definitely I want to say for airfare, make sure you plan on getting it a few months in advance prior to your trip, because once it gets closer to your trip, that airfare is going to be sky high, okay? If you book it months in advance, you're probably going to find a much better deal and you're going to get it for cheaper. Also, play with dates, play with different days, and check back multiple times a day. You know, check every day, check the website, because different days airfare goes up in price, airfare goes down in price. You know, you might check those dates that you have planned on like a Wednesday, and on the next day, Thursday, they're $100 cheaper. So definitely check every day as well, and check multiple times a day as well, because the airlines are always changing their prices, okay? And I also want to mention, I do fly Spirit Airlines as well. I like Spirit. I think they're quick, they're close to home, because the airport that is closest to my house, actually Spirit is all they offer. But I just feel like Spirit, for me, my airfare was $84 round trip, which in my opinion is a steal. I mean, that's incredibly cheap. I know they charge for bags and other items and things like that, but read everything. You know, I know the personal item, but I always pay to bring my luggage on the plane. I'm super anal about that. I don't love putting my stuff through security because I don't trust security. My mom has had things stolen out of her suitcase in past years, and I just think, for me personally, I prefer to keep things as close to me as possible. You know, they're just, everything that I own is honestly valuable to me, and I try to keep everything all together and nice. So I prefer to bring my suitcase on the plane. But with all that said, even with doing that, and because I was traveling alone, my airfare was $84 round trip, and once I paid for all the bags, I think it came to less than $150. So my entire airfare was less than $150. So in my opinion, that's pretty damn good. I also want to add to that as well, whenever I'm booking airfare, hotel, any sort of vacation, I don't use any of those third-party websites, Travelocity, Expedia, and honestly, I don't recommend using them, to be honest. I do know somebody who did book through one of those third-party sites, and when she got to her hotel, there was no reservation in there for her. So to be honest, I truly recommend, just if you're getting airfare or a hotel or whatever, just go right to the actual source. Even, honestly, you could even go to AAA and book a vacation through AAA if you wanted to, but in my opinion, I think it's just so much easier to just go right to the actual source, because you know what you're getting, what you're booking, and you know it's going to be there. Okay, so aside from all of that, I just wanted to make sure that I share that with you guys. I'm going to talk about hotel and lodging next. So honestly, the biggest regret of my entire trip was probably where I stayed. There was nothing wrong with the place that I stayed at. I want to make that clear. It was perfectly fine and I had no problem with it. I just wish, looking back on it, that I did stay on Disney property, because I feel like ultimately that would have been the most convenient thing for me to do. The hotel that I stayed at was a La Quinta. It was on International Drive. It's the iDrive North location. I will link everything down below and any information. We've always stayed on International Drive, my family, so I'm just very familiar with the area, and that's where I felt most comfortable staying, I guess, because I did know that area really well, and it was also a lot cheaper to stay there than it would have been for me to stay at a Disney resort. And also my hotel is walking distance from Universal, so I love going to Universal. I know this is a Disney video, but I did go to Universal too, so I was able to walk there. It was very close, so that made me really happy. The best advice, honestly, what I'm getting at here is, if you're going to Disney on your own and you're just doing Disney on your own, just stay at a Disney resort, because you know what? That is honestly the most convenient, and it can be honestly the most affordable thing for you, depending on where you're staying. I like to go to Universal too, so I was kind of going back and forth on that trip. So for me, I just recognized the area, and it was a little cheaper for me to stay at the resort that I stayed at. It's basically, if you guys don't know what La Quinta is, it's a chain. It's like a Marriott or like a whatever, Quality Inn. It's like one of those. It's just a chain, and it was honestly fine. Like, I mean, if I were to rate it, I would give it 3.5 out of 5 stars. It was clean. It was very affordable. The staff was really lovely, and they had a really great continental breakfast. And not like a shady continental breakfast. There were like hard-boiled eggs, there were waffles, there were bagels, muffins, fruits, juices. It was like a solid continental breakfast. So furthering more that, if you're planning on staying off property, I definitely recommend finding a place that has free continental breakfast, because that's going to save you, especially one like that, because that's going to save you some money too from eating at the parks if you don't want to eat breakfast in the parks, because this is free from your hotel and it's going to fill you up. Honestly though, if you're choosing not to stay on Disney property, maybe look into a place like as close as you can to Disney, like I said, if you're only doing Disney. But if you're planning on doing Universal too, try International Drive. I do realize that International Drive is not always the safest place to stay, and a lot of the hotels there I do feel like need revamping a lot, and they're also pretty old, but just do your research. I mean, there's a lot of amenities by International Drive. You've got the outlets, you've got fun spots over there, I think, you've got tons of restaurants to eat at, and just a ton of fun things to do. So definitely give that a try, and always find a hotel if you can that has free continental breakfast, because that's going to save you a ton of money, and free transportation to and from the parks, because you know what? Ubers get expensive, whatever you're taking can get expensive. So try and find a hotel with all those amenities. You're gonna be great. Okay, so furthermoreing, I don't know if that's a word, but furthermoreing the hotel, I want to talk about transportation, because getting to and from the parks is also important. Obviously, if you're staying on Disney property, you have the Disney buses, you have Disney transport, you're doing amazing. The hotel that I stayed at did have free transportation to and from the parks, which is great. I will say the schedule wasn't ideal, which sucked. The bus ride, we were like the first stop in the morning, so the bus ride was basically an hour because there were a whole ton of stops, and it was just, it really wasn't like sensational, but it was free. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't sensational. And I feel like a lot of times too, with those free transportation buses, sometimes it's difficult to stay and watch nighttime things unless you decide to stay and then take like an Uber home. But definitely I would say if you still can find a hotel with free transportation, it is free, and it got me to and from the parks. You just have to get a schedule in the morning from your lobby, and it'll tell you what time the buses run. Now, as far as getting to and from the airport with transportation, my family and I always did Mears, so when I was there alone, I also did Mears. I will say I don't recommend using Mears. Mears was honestly one of the worst parts of my trip. I didn't use Uber at that time because I didn't really know too much about it, I guess. I guess I was always used to using Yellow Cab when I was there, Mears. So whenever I would go to and from the theme parks, when I would want to stay late or I would get there a little late and I missed the bus or whatever, I would just call for a Mears Yellow taxi. The bus drivers were shutting the meters off, or they weren't turning them on, and I knew how much it was to get to and from Universal to my hotel, and they were trying to charge me double. And honestly, I just feel like I didn't need that. Uber was so much better. There was one Uber ride I took the whole trip, and it was honestly the most pleasant ride I had of my entire trip. So you know what? Honestly, if you what I'm trying to say is I don't recommend using Mears. If you have to get to and from anywhere and you don't have free transportation, just call an Uber. Uber's your best bet. Okay, so moving on from transportation, I want to talk about park tickets now. As far as park tickets go, I feel like this is going to be very vague, but I actually have an annual pass for Universal, and I actually don't pay for it. My mom does. So I didn't have to worry about paying for that. All I had to worry about at Universal is how I got there and food. But Disney tickets, I do want to say, because I stayed off property and I didn't book like a vacation through Disney, I got my tickets at AAA. I do recommend, if you have a AAA card, go get your tickets at AAA, because I saved like $50 on my tickets, which is $50 in my pocket, and who doesn't want to save money, especially on Disney? So I do recommend definitely doing that. I do believe I got I want to say it was a 5-day, 1-day per park ticket, so I didn't do like a park hopper or anything, but that was basically what took a majority of my money out. I would say that and the hotel, which I forgot to tell you how much my hotel actually was. My hotel was actually a little bit under $700 it came to for 9 days, and I don't remember how much my Disney tickets were, but my hotel and my tickets were a majority of where my money went on that trip. Also, I want to mention, please get your tickets somewhere legit for Disney. Like I said, AAA, you can buy them through Disney. I always recommend buying them through Disney if you don't have a AAA card. You can buy them at the park, like right before you get in. There's like windows and stuff and places you can buy them. Do not buy them at any sketchy places that you come across that say Disney tickets sold here, Universal tickets sold here. That is a scam, okay? It's like discounted tickets here. No, please don't do that. You're gonna lose money by doing that. You're gonna get scammed. Don't do it. Okay, so the final things I want to talk about in regards to planning and budgeting are food and merchandise. So I did also budget for both food and merchandise on this trip, because both of those things can become very expensive, especially if you're in Disney. For food, I allowed myself $30 a day. Well, obviously, if I was more hungry, I would just eat more food. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I put aside $30 a day for food, and I actually ended up spending, I think, less than $25 a day for food. So for me, food wasn't really like a big spending. Like, I wasn't a big spender with the food. I'm a pretty light eater a lot of times, and I don't love to spend a lot of time sitting down and eating in restaurants when I'm there. I like to spend a lot of time just in the parks, like doing rides and doing other things like that. But a lot of times too, for me, like a meal is like a Mickey pretzel with cheese. That's extremely filling to me, and it's also quick. And sometimes I even, like, if I'm not that hungry, I'll just go for like a kid's meal. But I usually will eat lighter during the day, and then at night I guess I'll sit down and have like more of like a bigger meal. But it kind of depends. It really honestly just depends what I've been doing that day and how hungry I am. Yeah, but ultimately I really didn't spend all that much on food when I was there, and I think I actually came home with money as well, so that's great. But I also want to mention, here's a fun tip if you guys didn't know. If you don't want to drink soda and you don't want bottled water because you don't want to spend like $4 or $5 on a bottle of water or however much it costs now, just ask for a cup of water because those are free, and I'm pretty sure they give you as many as you want, and water is so much better to stay hydrated with than soda. And you know what, you're gonna save a lot of money doing that as well. But anyways, as far as merchandise goes, I feel like that's your own personal preference. I allowed myself $300, I think, maybe a little bit more, I can't really remember, but that was for myself and also for Christmas gifts for people as well, and that was fine. I will say though, merchandise is very expensive there, but all of my money goes to Disney merchandise, even at home anyways, so it's fine. You do you, boo-boo. But yeah, merchandise, just whatever you want to do with that. That's just how much I budgeted. Okay, so that's actually it for, I feel like, the most important things as far as like planning and budgeting. I do want to say as well, make sure when you're planning a Disney vacation, write things down. Look at things before you go. Like, I always write everything down. Where I'm going, I always have whatever day I'm going where planned out, written down. I have my fast passes ready to go in advance. Take advantage of that, because you know what, that's gonna make your trip flow even smoother. I love planning stuff. I love writing things down. I write down everything when I'm going on vacation. Definitely look at hours too, because you know what, that's gonna determine how late you want to stay out, what park is open till what time if you want to park hop. So those are definitely just the best tips and tricks that I can give you for that. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so I honestly want to talk about next what it was like to just travel solo and to be in Disney by myself, because I feel like obviously Disney is a place for families. Everybody always goes to Disney with their families or with somebody else, so I feel like for somebody like me, just a young girl, to just go there on her own, I feel like is kind of a big deal. So I want to talk about that and what that was like. First and foremost, I do want to say, obviously traveling alone, especially if you're a young girl like me, can be scary because you are by yourself and you're the only person that you have with you. But I will say there wasn't a point where I felt unsafe in Disney. I really truly felt safe there. And I also want to say I had a lot of really positive interactions, not just with cast members, but with just random people I feel like I met. There was actually this one family, and I'll never forget them. I was in Universal and I was leaving. We were all exiting the park, and I asked this woman, she had her husband with her and her kids, so I felt like it was safe for me. I know I stereotyped her as a mom, but I felt like it was just safe for me to just go up to her and ask her a question. And I asked her about Uber and everything, and you know, how it worked kind of, and like the app thingy, because I hadn't used it. And I feel like such an old lady saying that now, because after that all I did was use Uber. But I asked her like how to use it and stuff, and she was so kind, and she didn't even have to do this, but she said, you know, you can come along with us. Like, and I saw her ask her husband, and her husband was just like, whatever you want to do. Like, he wasn't thrilled about it because they were asking a stranger, but she was so kind, and she was like, we can take you to your hotel, because I told her where it was. I did say no because I felt like I didn't want to like intrude or anything like that, but she was so nice. And I just want to say I really did feel safe in all the theme parks that I went to, and I think that's good to know. I will say being a party of one and traveling alone does have a lot of perks. For Disney, a lot of it was just, you know, riding rides and like meeting characters like that. It's always convenient when there's just one of you. And I also liked that when I got up to the line and like a cast member would ask me how many were in your party. I'd say just me, and they'd always, you know, ask like, oh, are you traveling alone? Like, and they were always like so nice about it, and I thought it was nice that they would like try to strike up a conversation. And also eating in restaurants. I was in line to eat at Hard Rock on City Walk. o'clock and the line was crazy. It was 45-minute wait, and I was like, it's just me, and they literally took me right to a table. So I will say there are a lot of perks, more so than cons, of traveling alone, because like I said, you make your own schedule, you do whatever you want to do, and I think that's pretty cool. Okay, so let's talk about what it was like to meet characters while I was traveling by myself. So, to be honest, I feel like for me, I love meeting characters. That's one of my favorite parts of my trips. I didn't have any sort of issue. I didn't think it was awkward. I feel like a lot of people would just think that it would be awkward because you're by yourself and you're getting online to meet a face character or whatever. But to be honest, this is the truth. It's only awkward if you make it awkward. You know, like, just have fun with it. I feel like nobody really cared, you know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't really a difference to the characters. It was pretty much the same for them. So I feel like if you want to do it, if you feel like you're gonna have fun doing it, then definitely do it, because it's honestly the same as if you would meet them with somebody else. So go for it. Also, don't worry, the cast members will take your pictures. If you want like a picture taken on your phone or whatever, just ask them nicely if they'll take a picture, and they'll handle everything for you. So don't worry about that. But definitely, to me, it wasn't awkward. It was totally fine. I did what I normally would do, and I just got online and I met the characters. Okay, so the final thing I want to talk about in this video is meeting people and if I met anybody on my trip. So I actually met my friend Jennifer for the very first time, who I actually met through Instagram because we both love Disney, and I actually have a Disney page, so follow me on that. It's at Magical Disney Treasures. But her and I actually talked online for years, and we knew each other through Instagram. So she actually lives in Florida, so when I went, I was like, you know, why don't we hang out? We just agreed that we would hang out. So she came to Magic Kingdom, we ate at Crystal Palace, we did some rides, and we also watched Happily Ever After together. So it was so much fun. I had so much fun with her, and I'm so glad that I met her in person, and she's still a very, very good friend of mine to this day, one of my best friends. And I am going to link her down below as well, because she is an artist and she does custom Disney shoes. I think she does a whole bunch of other stuff too besides shoes, but her Disney vans are amazing. So if you're going on a trip to Disney and you want custom vans, she's the one you want to go to. Her name is Jennifer, and her Instagram is at Nocturne Canvas. I will link that down below for you guys. The other two people I met were two of my guy friends, and to be honest, they ended up being a little lame. I hate saying that. Like, I don't even talk to them anymore, honestly, but they ended up just being a little bit lame, and they just kind of, I feel like I would have done better without them. They weren't as fun as my friend Jennifer was. So honestly, could have done without that. I know that is petty. I am sorry, but you know what? I am the petty queen, so whatever. It's the truth. But besides that, it was just me the entire trip, and in conclusion, I just want to say I had honestly the most fun time ever. It was so cool and also rewarding, I feel like, to be able to travel to Disney on my own and just be able to do Disney the way I wanted to do it. It was so cool. So if you're thinking about going on a solo trip to Disney, do it. Okay, you're gonna have the best time ever, I promise. Alright, you guys, so that is going to conclude this video for today. Thank you so much for watching. This was honestly so much fun to make. I love talking about Disney. It's my favorite. I hope you guys enjoyed watching, and I hope you guys found this video helpful as well. I feel like, you know, no matter where you're going, it's always good to get some tea before you leave. Yeah, but honestly, talking about Disney is honestly like my favorite thing to do in the whole wide world. I could chew everybody's ears off about it for hours. Alright, you guys, as usual, if you like videos like this one, don't forget to give this one a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Also, if you haven't yet already and you would like to follow me on social media, follow my TikTok and my Instagram. Both are at It's April D. I will have those linked down below for you as well. And don't forget to comment any questions that you may have down below, and also let me know what kind of content you would like to see from me next. Thank you again so much for watching. I appreciate and love all of you so much, and I'll see you guys again in my next video. Bye! You think they should follow me on Instagram?